Good morning. Today we will see about the odontogenic cyst. Kramer has defined a cyst as a pathological cavity having fluid, semi-fluid or gaseous contents and which is not created by the accumulation of pus. This is the definition of the cyst. Most of the cysts are lined by the epithelium, but not all the cysts are lined by epithelium. So the cyst of the oral and maxillofacial tissues which are not lined by the epithelium are the mucous extravasation cyst of salivary glands, the aneurysmal bone cyst, and the solitary bone cyst. Now coming to the classification of the cyst of the jaws, they are broadly classified as epithelial line cyst and non-epithelial line cyst. Now this epithelial line cyst, they are again subclassified as developmental cyst and inflammatory cyst, means which are developmental in origin and which are inflammatory in origin. And these developmental epithelial line cysts, they are again subclassified as odontogenic and non-odontogenic. Now the odontogenic cysts, which are developmental in origin, they are gingival cyst of infants, odontogenic keratocyst, dentigerous cyst, eruption cyst, gingival cyst of adults, developmental lateral periodontal cyst, botryoid odontogenic cyst, glandular odontogenic cyst, and calcifying odontogenic cyst. The non-odontogenic cyst, which are developmental, they are mid-palatal raphe cyst of infants, nasopalatine duct cyst, and nasolabial cyst. Then inflammatory cyst, or which are inflammatory origin, they are radicular cyst, residual cyst, paradental and juvenile paradental cyst, and inflammatory collateral cyst. The non-epithelial line cyst, they are solitary bone cyst and aneurysmal bone cyst. Now secondly, the cyst associated with maxillary antrum, they are mucosal, then the retention cyst, pseudocyst, and post-operative maxillary cyst. Then third are the cyst of the soft tissues of the mouth, face, and neck. These are dermoid and epidermoid cyst, lymphoepithelial cyst, thyroglossal duct cyst, anterior and median lingual cyst, oral cyst with gastric or intestinal epithelium, cystic hygroma, nasopharyngeal cyst, thymic cyst, cyst of the salivary glands, and lastly, we have the parasitic cyst. So this is the classification of the cyst. Now we'll see in detail about all of these cysts. The first one is the dentigerous cyst, which is also called as the follicular cyst. So this is the most common type of developmental odontogenic cyst, and it is defined as a cyst that surrounds the crown of an impacted tooth caused by the accumulation of fluid between reduced enamel epithelium and enamel surface, resulting in the cyst in which the crown is located within the lumen. Means this dentigerous cyst, it is always associated with the impacted tooth. Nearly, it involves or is associated with the crown of the permanent tooth. Deciduous tooth is seldom involved. So coming to the clinical features, it is always associated with the crown of the impacted, embedded, or unerupted tooth. Most common site for the occurrence of this dentigerous cyst is the mandibular third molar, followed by maxillary third molar, followed by the maxillary canine, since these are the most commonly impacted teeth. It rarely involves the unerupted deciduous tooth. Occasionally, it may be associated with the supernumerary teeth or odontomas. Most common age of occurrence of this dentigerous cyst is second and third decade. There is a slight male predilection. Coming to the clinical features, the small dentigerous cysts, they are asymptomatic and may be discovered during routine radiographic examination. But when these dentigerous cysts, they are larger in size, then there is a painless expansion of the bone, due to which there is a facial asymmetry, there is an extreme displacement of the teeth, and severe resorption of the adjacent teeth. When these dentigerous cysts they are infected, then there is a pain and discomfort. The cystic involvement of the unerupted mandibular third molar causes complete hollowing out of the entire ramus and coronary process of the coronary process and condyle, and there is expansion of the cortical plate. Now sometimes there may be a displacement of the third molar and which may lie compressed against the inferior border of the mandible. When these dentigerous cysts they are associated with the maxillary canine, there is expansion of the anterior maxilla. Now coming to the radiographic features. Radiographically, this dentigerous cyst or this follicular cyst, it shows a unilocular radiolucent area which is always associated with the crown of the unerupted. This radiolucency, it has a well-defined sclerotic border. When the cyst is secondarily infected, then the borders are ill-defined. The normal follicular space is about 3 to 4 millimeters. When the space is more than 5 millimeters, then this dentigerous cyst is suspected. Now this is the radiographic appearance of the dentigerous cyst. Here you can see the crown of the unerupted tooth, which is the upper maxillary third molar, which has a well-defined radiolucency and the corticated margins. Now these are the another radiographic pictures of the dentigerous cyst. Now there are 3 radiological variants of this dentigerous cyst. They are central, lateral, and circumferential. The central is the most common variant where the crown is enveloped symmetrically. The lateral variant, it is associated with the mesioangularly impacted mandibular third molar that is partially erupted. And circumferential, in this variant, the cyst surrounds the crown and extends for some distance around the root so that significant portion of the root appears to lie within the cyst. Now this is the central type where the crown is projecting into the cystic lumen. Then this is the lateral variant where there is a large cyst along the mesial surface of the unerupted mandibular third molar. And this is the circumferential variety showing the cyst extension along the mesial and distal roots of the unerupted tooth. Now rarely the third molar may lie displaced to the lower border of the mandible or maybe to the higher position into the ascending ramus. Dentigerous cyst may displace the involved to a considerable distance. Root resorption of the adjacent teeth may be seen. The radiographic features of the dentigerous cyst, they are not diagnostic. So in differential diagnosis, you can consider odontogenic keratocyst, unicystic ameloblastoma, and other odontogenic and non-odontogenic tumors. Coming to the macroscopic appearance of this dentigerous cyst, here you can see the tooth which is impacted or which is enclosed within the cystic cavity or within the cyst. Now this is the canine. Now coming to the histopathology, this is the gross. Here you can see the cyst lining attached to the cervical margin of the tooth, which encloses the crown. The histopathological features of the dentigerous cyst, they are not characteristic, but it has a cystic lumen which is lined by a thin layer of stratified squamous epithelium. When this epithelial lining is non-inflamed, then it is about 2 to 4 cell layer thick, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, and the connective tissue wall is composed of loose fibrous connective tissue. So here you can see the cystic lumen which is lined by a thin layer of stratified squamous epithelium and underlying connective tissue capsule. When the cyst is inflamed, then this epithelial lining It shows a varying amounts of hyperplasia with the development of rete ridges. And the connective tissue wall of the connective tissue capsule, it shows the chronic inflammatory cell infiltration. Now here you can appreciate the inflamed anterior cyst with the hyperplastic stratified squamous epithelial lining and the fibrous connective tissue capsule with the dense chronic inflammatory cell infiltrate. Now in addition, this dentigerous cyst, it shows the presence of odontogenic epithelial islets in the connective tissue wall. So the amount of this odontogenic epithelium, it varies. It may be either few or large in number. Then the rostrum bodies are seen in the epithelial lining with the cyst associated with the inflammation. And the content is a thin watery yellow fluid of the cyst. Now here you can appreciate the fibrous connective tissue capsule with the odontogenic epithelial islets. Now these are the rostrum bodies which are seen in the epithelial lining with the inflammation, the cyst with the inflammation. Now there are the pluripotential properties of the epithelium with the cyst associated with the mandibular molars or the mandibular dentigerous cyst. They are the mucus secreting cells, the respiratory lining, sebaceous cyst in the connective tissue wall, and lymphoid follicles with the germinal stigmas. Now here you can appreciate the mucus secreting cells within the epithelial lining. Now coming to the treatment and prognosis, treatment is careful enucleation of the cyst, and large cysts are treated with the marsupialization. Prognosis is excellent and recurrence is relatively uncommon after complete removal of the crown. Now coming to the potential complications of the dentigerous cyst, they are ameloblastoma, then epidermoid carcinoma and leukoepidermoid carcinoma. Again, this ameloblastoma may develop from the lining epithelium or from the rest of the odontogenic epithelium in the wall of the cyst. And epidermoid carcinoma again from the same two sources, and leukoepidermoid carcinoma is from the lining epithelium with the mucus secreting cells. So this finishes your dentigerous cyst.